Cool. Hello all. Thanks for jumping in. Yeah, welcome to another week of our weekly live streams on all things virtual production and all things Off-World live streaming toolkit. We're making moves in the shared project with an awesome update coming very soon. Been busy, been very busy adding features, adding performance upgrades and things like this, and yeah, just excited to show you where I'm at with the project this week. There should be an update ready to download pretty soon. We're just working on some tutorials and bits to accompany the shared project. So yeah, as usual, you know, every week we're going to be streaming this out, just show you what we're up to, what we've got to update you with. Obviously this is aiming to be an awesome space for you to ask questions and stuff as well, so you know, any questions relating to what I'm showing in this little session or just anything that you want to chat about, feel free to jump in the Discord chat or in the YouTube live stream as well. Yeah, so yeah, I thought I would show you how I've sort of achieved light leaks and lens flares, and basically anything where lighting is coming in front of your talent, how you can achieve that in not only your in CG kind of media plate but also in kind of comped footage. So I'll just show you if I turn on these layers up to about here, we can see that like even in our comped footage here, we've got our nice high-res media plate, but it's got lens flares, it's got a bit of a dirt mask going on, and you get, you know, light leaks and things like that, and these are, you know, very important for getting realistic kind of cinematic shots. It's like a super realistic thing that occurs in cameras. You know, you want your foreground actors to be kind of obscured behind a bit of lighting and stuff like this. Oh, apologies, I'm just seeing a bit of a stream issue on YouTube. Let me double check. Okay, might be something to double check next time. Okay. One sec, I'll just get this stream back up and running. Yeah, I think that was just a GPU crash, which is something that happens when I'm meddling around with these experimental features in Unreal Engine, I'm sure you know. GPU taking some serious hits. So the OBS is still running, that's cool. Stream on YouTube is actually still running. Okay, my media sent in there. That might just be because the source needs refreshing. Oh, cool, not running, that's sweet. Alright, cool, nice. So yeah, that does kind of demonstrate that this is quite an experimental feature. It's something where, like, if you're looking to do like a real cinematic shot, it's kind of, this technique is pretty valid for that. Live streaming and things like that, it can get a little hairy, which is, if I just show you sort of the If I show you under the hood how it's kind of working, you'll kind of see that. But essentially, you could see like the visual that you're looking for from that. Let's see if I get. Okay, so if I leave this one off, just lighting, CG, talent. Hopefully, this shouldn't drop out. But yeah, essentially, you know, we're using the fact that Composure is giving us this awesome non-anti-aliased media plate, and then, you know, as you can see, like the difference between the real smudged media, you know, the media is so much nicer, and yet we're still getting nice things like light leaks coming over in front of the talent. Really nice for kind of photography or, you know, cinematic type shots. A little less on the virtual broadcast side, as this is quite a heavy process, but it just shows that by meddling with some of this stuff, you can get some really cool kind of post-process effects and cinematic type shots. So I'm just gonna disable these for now, just so things are smoother as I'm just showing you this stuff. But essentially, you know, the things we're looking at achieving are kind of these cinematic post-process effects, and you can do this in the post-process volume or just in your CineCam. So I've sort of got three things on here to kind of achieve this kind of lens flare look. I guess first off, I would go directional light, and this has a awesome feature called light shaft occlusion down here. And if you just tick the light shaft bloom, that will give you these kind of God rays basically. So these kind of, you know, gold rays, that's all done just from directional light and just light shaft bloom. And you've also got a bloom scale, so you can adjust that slider, so that's really cool. So yeah, that's how you get those sort of God rays. Let me bring that down a bit. Keep it over here. Actually, keep it over here because this is also showing this lens flare. So if we take this off, we can see we've also got these kind of lens flares, which is a CineCam or a post-process effect. Have some lens flares here. You can search like lens flare. Up the intensity, bring that bokeh size down, and you know, I like to do it with the color slider instead of the intensity slider, because then you can have it really nice and intense and then dial it back down again. But you know, this is kind of stuff you can achieve in your own sort of view of how you want to kind of art direct this stuff, but that is how you would do a lens flare. And then I've also just got a dirt mask as well, which again is quite nice to just bump this up like loads so you can see what it's doing. It's just kind of like a low opacity overlay, but I think it kind of it responds to the light in quite a nice way, so dirt masks are really nice for a bit more of a cinematic effect. I like to just dial this down with the color slider as well. Oh, really sorry, I just wasn't sharing screen in that second one. Cool, should be back on now. Keep an eye on the chat for that. So yeah, basically just got you know, dirt mask as a CineCam effect. Dirt mask. That's this one where you can input a texture. This is part of the shared project, so you can grab this texture, and then, you know, I like to just up this like loads and then use the color slider to like really dial it in. So yeah, that's a nice one. Lens flares are also part of the CineCam effects there, and then the overall directional light gives the light shaft sort of God rays. and that's under here you go light shaft occlusion, light shaft bloom. This will really give you this kind of light shaft effect. So yeah, those are the kind of cinematic effects I'm going for. And then obviously this does just work in, you know, in the viewport quite happily, but then in composure, what would usually happen if I show some of these, what it would usually look like is something like this, where you've just literally got no effect onto your talent, onto your media. So this is kind of the problem that people have. They're like, hey, you know, the light shafts are not going over the front of my talent. So what we've got another somewhat resource heavy layer here called lighting. And if I go into my transform pass here, hold on. It might be because I haven't got my light shaft bloom, so I'm not seeing so much of an effect. Yeah, so yeah, now in the kind of comp footage, let's go back to this transform pass. This is where I'm kind of controlling this. Yeah, you can see that, yeah, this stuff is actually going over the front of the talent quite kind of dynamically. And, you know, it means you can kind of set up your shots. You got everything like bloom. You also do have just general bloom goes over the talent. It's basically anything that casts kind of light in the way that it would in the CG world is now going over the talent. So I can also up the, if I go to the Cinecam, I can also just up the bloom, and the bloom does start to, so like say the bloom from the screen behind, like the light from there, it will actually bleed over the talent as well. So, you know, if you're going for like an 80s effect or something cool like that, then, you know, any kind of lighting bleeding over the talent can be totally achieved through this method. As I say, I'm literally running at like 20 odd frames per second, so it's a little bit more of one for pre-rendered, or, you know, broadcast. You'd be getting a little bit sketchy with this as it stands at the moment, but, you know, we are getting light leaking over onto our talent. It can achieve some awesome effects with that. So if I just show you like how, for one, I could just show you how to quickly set this up if you have the shared project downloaded, because obviously the shared project is made for, you know, setting all this stuff up way quicker. I can show you that. So sort of by default, I think what it would look like is you might come into the project and, you know, you might not even have a level that is sort of appropriate for it, you know, like you might come in at this kind of inside kind of level. So I've just set up this lighting example level, but, you know, you might want to create your own level to start with and just add it in as one of these child levels of the persistent level. I'm going to bring out tutorials of like dealing with the whole level system. But essentially, like, once you've loaded this into your level and you've got your talent swapped in, it's going to be something like this. I think I'll have the lighting layer and the shadow layer switched off by default. And what you can do is just make sure that you have the right, in the main overarching comp, make sure that you have the right transform path selected. So it might start off on like a simpler one, like 3-layer comp, 2-layer comp, but we want to go to lighting only or something like that. And then I have these sliders for like lighting on or off. So if this lighting layer is hidden, you can have it as off, because if it's on while it's hidden, Okay, so that was the thing to usually you'd get the strange kind of green backing image if you have this switched off. But so I'm just trying to make a system where you can just save resources by because this is rendering a whole scene again. If you want to save resources, you can just have this switched off. So that seems to be working okay. So it's like if you didn't want to do lighting, this could all be set up, and you could just have this hidden. But if you do want to do lighting, you just switch this lighting layer on, and you just make sure that this slider is set correctly. And that is literally it. Like if you're using it as part of the shared project, you would then be a way to just play with it as something that works with lighting. You might find that you get a bit of haloing around here, and there is something that I'm going to put in place to try and mitigate that. But I'll just explain kind of how this is set up, and then like you'll see that after. But yeah, essentially to achieve the kind of light leak thing, we've got this layer. So if you preview this lighting layer, you can see that it's actually just a black version, like a zero lighting version of the talent. And this image is just taking in the lighting information basically, and then being laid over the talent layer. So that's essentially what you're getting in this final comp. You're getting just this black and white section, or black and white and a bit of color where you've got like the light leaking or any tint, and that's then being laid over this talent with what's called a screen blend mode. So it's like a classic compositing thing is blend modes like multiply and screen. Hey Chipko, thanks for tuning in, man. Yeah, always pushing it forward. Cheers. So yeah, like yeah, we're just using this. You might have seen on Photoshop, if you chuck a screen blend mode onto something, it will essentially just emit the white, or it will make any black tones transparent, and any white tones will show through. So that is exactly what we're doing here. We're just taking any white tones from this kind of section, and we're laying it over this image, you know. So that's why it goes from being a super clean image to being like a nice kind of taking on the lighting and everything. So the way like I'm capturing this lighting one is that I'm using the show hide actors from this input. So you know, you can create a CG element. So let's create a regular AL CG element, and I've gone capture actors, and all I've done is I've just excluded this main talent plane, the albedo of the talent. I've also excluded a shadow layer, which I'm yet to implement, but basically what this means is this CG element is now going to be capturing all your lighting in your scene, but it's not going to be capturing the albedo of your talent, and so it's just going to be capturing this black and white version, because if we go to this here, this is essentially what I've got. I've got three versions of this talent all piled up. All piled up behind each other, you see? So, you know, exactly the same image, just overlaid behind that. And then, you know, this CG element is grabbing just the black and white image, or like black and white and a bit of color variation. So, you know, I've done that by just making like a material instance. Go to the talent plane. Let's go to the materials that I'm using here. I've got my main talent plane material, and then I've got this kind of lighting capture version of the material. So it's just got a little bit of a specular, and it's just got the same alpha mask as its parent. And then yeah, it's being overlaid. So Baron, you're saying, is there a video specifically on alpha channel? what kind of implementation of the alpha channel, or just our alpha channel as part of our capture component? Let me know specifics. But yeah, essentially that's, you know, just same material instance, and then you can do exactly the same thing for a shadow capture if you want shadow cast onto your talent. It's just the same but just inverted, you know, and you would use a different blend mode to just overlay that, just a multiplied blend mode instead of a screen. So yeah, because I've got all these layers behind one another, and you know, I've got these CG elements that only see that layer, they don't see the layer in front. This CG element can now be laid over the top of of this talent, and it can give it all the color, all the light leaks and things that you're looking for. So to show you how I've set up the transform pass for this, if you are just using the shared project, you won't need to set up your transform pass because you can just pick from this list of ones that we've made. And also they're all named the same so that you can just flip between them and it will all hook up nicely. Apparently. There you go. Cool. Considering alpha support, tricky with video streaming, usually pushing forward this feature, limitation would be good content for the plugin. Yeah. Well, I mean, we do alpha channel support sending out from the render target. I mean, you might have seen that. Which I could look at demoing quickly. Essentially, it would be like here, you know, you can send out alpha. You can just carry that through to like a spout sender. You know, this could output to a render target, or whatever you're making with alpha, that can output to a render target, and then, you know, as part of a spout sender. Oh, I got a spout sender in here. Spout sender. You know, you can just send out that render target. And you know, spout output supports alpha. I'm pretty sure NDI supports alpha output as well. I'm not sure, I would have to double check that actually, but yeah, if you can pick that up in your render target, then you can send that out. I'm not sure about receiving it then in other programs. That's an interesting one. But yeah, if you check out this transform pass, again, it's like something that if you're just grabbing this project and you're just using this to create the shot you want to create, then you don't need to understand what's going on in the transform pass, but I'll just run through it anyway. I'm just going to hide some of this so it's going to run a bit smoother. Is that what you're talking about, Baron? Like sending alpha out as a texture, or is there other stuff you want to look at in terms of alpha? So for composure, everything is done in these transform passes. This transform pass is what's taking in all of these layers and meshing them together, basically overlaying one over another. But it is just the material, so you can do whatever you want to do in material, you know, in material editor stuff, you know, any shader work you want to do, you can do in this, and that makes it really, really flexible for kind of a nuke style of compositing. You know, Nuke or other compositors is essentially doing similar stuff. So I guess we could start at the back here. I've got my talent coming in, takes the RGBA channel. So there's no matte involved, it's just alpha over spout. Yeah. So for my example here, I've got I do have like pre-keyed footage coming in. So this is like pre-green screen, and I'm doing my keying and composure. Then, you know, that outputs alpha, you know, so that is cool. But in our regular just Al Cinecam, we have a capture actors. Pretty sure. Yeah, show only list. So this is really useful. You can do hidden actors and show only actors. And that will, you know, you can just pick any actor. Change that to a show only instead, I guess. And then what if I check out, let me just pause this. If I write this to a render target, oh, I shouldn't have chosen that one. Just try, see if I can send it to this one. And then yeah, like this is now the render target. Because I've clicked show only for that one actor, you can send that out with alpha. I mean, I hope that answers your question. Unless I'm thinking of something completely different. But yeah, you know, you got real-time alpha sent out through this. Yeah, but the keying was done in UE, which isn't super recommended to do your keying in Unreal. It's not got the best keyer. It's kind of recommended that you take like pre-keyed footage from a hardware keyer or something like that to get the best results. You can do your keying in Unreal, and you know, running stuff through Composure is good for adding passes, because you can just add any, as I was saying with these kind of transform passes. These transform passes are just basically effects that you can put onto layers. So you can have a transform pass here that what this is doing is taking all these layers and mushing them together, but you could also have a transform pass just on this one layer if you wanted to. So you can have a transform pass that, you know, does hue saturation or whatever. So, you know, the idea of this Composure stuff, I don't know how long they're going to be looking at like keeping this Composure stuff going at Unreal, like, but it has some, you know, it's quite a weird solution, but it has some really awesome things with adding effects to layers and doing real-time compositing and adding effects, you know. Meshing a kind of After Effects workflow of Unreal is kind of how I see it. Yeah, and then Avalanche coming through. Yeah, Avalanche seems really good for 2D kind of animation over the top. It's kind of doing a mesh of like 3D and 2D, and there's a lot of kind of vector and shape stuff you can do for, you know, it's kind of geared towards, if you got a virtual broadcasting, you'll do like a lower third with some cool animation coming in. Avalanche seems like it's really geared towards that. And it does also have effects where you can just, yeah. Definitely seems like it's doing a similar thing, doesn't it? Hey guys, tuning in on YouTube as well. Really nice to see you. Oh, glad it's helping you, Luca, with your project. Do let us know if there's anything specific to look into. Chia, see you're looking at adding sequence animation. Yeah, it's totally something we can look into, as there's some tutorials coming out soon where I'll show you how to do like a nice intro sequence for something like this. Yeah, tutorials on the way for sure. So yeah, couple side tracks there, but I've basically shown you what I want to show you, kind of under the hood of how you kind of achieve these light leaks even in composited footage. The idea with it is you've got this talent, so this all comes in with this annoying preview, but imagine that's the talent, you know, the actor, and then it's got this lighting layer, so that's this here. It's got this black and white image, that's the lighting layer, and basically that's being in kind of a, it's got this contrast slider, it's got lighting on or off, but this blend screen is where the magic happens really. That blend screen is what's letting the light layers come through, but letting the dark layers be low opacity, so, you know, transparent. And then all of that, so imagine these two layers together, that's your lighting overlaid over your talent. So it's going to be something like this, but with the lighting over the top. If you kind of imagine that. I guess I can kind of show you this actually. If I just hook this one up on its own. And show this. Is that going to work? I guess, yeah, this is the image that we'd be getting now, is we're getting the we're getting the full CG, but we're getting the talent as well. But then, you know, we're losing the mask now. We've got the legs down here. So we're losing the mask. So then what you have to do as part of the transform pass is you have to overlay all the CG back over everything, but with this mask that I've set up, and we talked about masks in another stream, but now that is what means that the legs are not going to be cut off, basically. I need to apply and save that. Oh, literally nothing going out. That would be why. Yeah, so that's under the hood of how you get that kind of screen overlay over your talent, and you know, as a result, you're actually really flexible to do awesome stuff, either with bloom coming around your talent, or lens flares, or light shafts, or things like that. Yeah, so it's fun. It's cool. It is very performance heavy, so it's best for sequenced shots. But that is just because we've got multiple full renders of the whole scene going on. But it's the only way I've found to do it so far. As you can see, it's around 20. When you do that, it's going to be around 15. But yeah, it's the way I've found to do it so far. Yeah, be cool to see if anyone sort of makes some cool looking stuff with it, or gets on with it, or finds any difference on that. Yeah, thanks, Baron. Yeah, I think it's definitely like a key thing. Like, especially if you're doing something cinematic, you know, you really want that light bending around the foreground people, you know, foreground actors. It's totally, for me, it's super essential thing for like cinematic type shots. Less so for like broadcast or podcast, unless you want to do something really fancy. But yeah, it's cool. Yeah, definitely settings are a bit over the top for sure. I was thinking of just giving this a bit of a tweak. I guess it demonstrates it, doesn't it? You know. But it's quite cool how you can adjust everything in your world in quite a nice way, but then also, because this is just material editor stuff, you can adjust the look of it in these parameters as well. So you know, there's like potential for even more tweaking there, which is quite nice. Oh, another thing I was going to show you is that you might get this kind of edge, you know, there's a bit of an edge. There should be, let's see if this works, but there should be like a way to kind of mitigate that. If you go into this talent plane, you got your lighting layer. So this is what's picking up on the lighting. I've actually got an erode. Erode here. So you can actually erode this edge and make it smaller. And for me, that's not actually helping this time, but it might be because I got this one. So the idea is that this haloing is probably coming from these actors being stacked up sort of behind one another. So could also look at just eroding this one. Is that helping? Is that doing less? Yeah, I'm not sure. There's something to be done with getting this edge a bit better. Yeah. Cool. So backlighting your subject when you shoot on green screen makes it easier to key out. Yeah, makes sense. So you're separating the two bits of lighting going on. But yeah, also could, if you have some flare going on in your actual scene as well, that could pair really nicely. Yeah, I can see that for sure. I really do want to get a real camera going on soon, so I can do this stuff, with real examples. Because then I can control the real world lighting as well, and that's like, such a massive part of it. Might just play around with these settings a little bit. Try to get a nice example. Also, like, something worth noting is that, like, the colors carry through as well, so you can just on the fly be looking at a total different scene in terms of color, and your subject kind of seems like they're in the scene, which is a really nice thing. Just another thing worth noting, just because it is literally like it's capturing everything that's in the scene, but just on a black plane instead of a colored plane, and then overlaying that, it's going to capture all your color and everything. So for that, it is like a really nice workflow. It's just the performance is just mental. It's the only thing. Oh, there we go. Bring that up a bit. Sure, yeah, backlighting. Backlighting to get a nice contrasting edge, yeah. So my general bloom is just way too much now. But yeah, I guess actually, Chia Mohammed, if you're still on here, I'll just show you a couple things with Sequencer actually, because I've just worked out quite a nice system for Sequencer. There's part of, if you download this project, you can play around with it. So we've got something like this going on. I've got this persistent level here, and I've got a kind of actor here. I think it's this one, and it takes 4 level sequences here. So if you make any level sequence, so I've got like this one that does an intro, can make a level sequence there, that's all good. And then if you just pick that from this list, what it means is that when you begin play, I know a lot of stuff's gone weird here, but that's fine. If you begin play, your sequences will be triggered on 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is that right? Or Q, W, E, R, T. QWER, first 4 keys. And you know, that's doing the triggering for you. And that means that now, like whatever 4 sequences you have loaded in here, you can then just trigger on that QWER. So it's doing that whole functionality of triggering different sequences. You don't then have to do that. You can just pick 4 sequences that you want to trigger. It's quite useful for broadcast type stuff if you want, you know. Yeah, it does reset the sequence, so the camera does teleport for sure. Yeah. So Baron is bringing up the need for his awesome camera switching system, I'm sure, which I really do want to implement. Absolutely, I do want to implement. It's just, you know, I'm actually just not even versed with OSC in or anything like that, so it's something that I'm gonna have to like look into quite a lot to really implement. It'd be awesome to just be able to get that running in here, definitely. Maybe we should have a session on it soon, Baron. Maybe even over one of these streams, have a crack at figuring that out, because yeah, that interp2 kind of movement from different points is a lot nicer than just having a few different sequences. And yeah, the camera does teleport. So this one, I go, it just plays. That one shouldn't loop actually in its current state. Let me check that out. That might be because I had it playing here. So this first one should just play and then stop there. So it's kind of intro. And then the idea is that you have another one. This one is currently jumping to this, I'm not sure why. That should just be jumping to another shot. I guess maybe it's nice that you have mouse control. I guess that's possessing something or something by accident. But then the E key, you got like a central shot, and that one will just loop back and forth. So, you know, nice kind of straight on shot. And then R key, you got something a bit more off to the left, but it's also just doing a ping pong there. So I've gone for this thing of the camera's not totally interping between different kinds of movement. You do have some cuts, but yeah, the idea is, you know, you got this kind of sequence switcher, which is nice and handy. You can load 4 sequences in. And yeah, thanks, Luca. It's definitely, I'm trying to get like a the most kind of elegant system, you know, for stuff that people might want to use, but it's not like pinning them down into doing stuff a certain way. So I was going to give people a load of sequences to choose from, but then I thought, you know, people want to make their own sequence, but the actual loading it into something that's kind of triggerable, I wanted to make that a bit more elegant for people. And you know, it's not ideal to have everything running in the level blueprint. So as it stands at the moment, I do have the triggers, so the different key presses, for animations. They are here. They are in the level blueprint. They could be in a controller blueprint or like a game mode blueprint. But then they are just triggering a simple, you know, on this end it's very simple. It's just triggering a custom event. Then within the custom event, that's where the this is the animation selector that I selected here. So this is where the bulk of the logic is going down. So it's just keeping it really organized, you know. So I just got a few blueprints lined up here that kind of do stuff, and then the level blueprint at the moment is just triggering. So yeah, keeping it nice and elegant and organized really is the idea. Yeah, Baron, definitely be awesome to. Yeah, I'm sure we can totally make it run in UE. It's just, as I say, like, would take an afternoon or two for sure to implement. So yeah, like kind of wrapping up now. So nice to see people interested in this. As I say, I've just been working really hard at trying to make something that's really useful to a lot of people. So as always, I'll just got a motorbike going past. 1 second. As always, suggestions and stuff is always awesome. It's great to see you guys giving a few ideas of what you want to see included. And yeah, this will be every single week. I'll just be showing updates and progress. I'm really happy with how this is looking at the moment, so I'm just doing a bit of cleanup. I've got a few tutorials out or coming out soon, and this will be paired with this project just ready for you to download. So the idea is that you'll be able to just swap your own level into this, and it'll be doing all the composure stuff, you know, things like this level switcher. That will all be functionality that's already part of this, so you'll just be essentially picking up a kind of virtual broadcast, virtual production kind of studio, and you can use this as your basis project and take it and do what you will with it. Oh, just had another question from Soon. Is there a way to record the image sequence frame by frame of the final composure output from the sequencer? Yeah, I see what you mean about the you would like to render it frame by frame. Yeah, maybe that's something that I'll look into next week. It's like a really good question and something that's well worth looking into. Definitely doable. Yeah, I've been looking for something to cover next week, so I'll look at that next week. Yeah, thanks again everyone for tuning in. Same time next week. Cheers all.